And often enough, I do find that me personally, I challenge these confines of design and what designers would define the idea of design. I think there's a sense of aesthetic beauty in design that can enhance and enrich an experience. And with the idea of design as a function, design as a operate, that element of ornament or motif added to design can enhance that experience. How would I describe a zine? A zine is somewhere that straddle between the two, the idea of design and beautiful art, right? Or craft. I would say craft, because one, it functions, it operates, it communicates a sets of idea, but also the level of communication and the language used comes from the people, comes from the environment in which it's shaped the theme of the zine, or the content of the zine, language of imagery, icon. For example, like the zine that I did, right? Moments of textures, moment of added motif, such as these, right? These don't function, but they do play a role in enhancing one experience as they're going through the zine. I got involved in the process of making zine because when I first started at UMass Law as a student, as a fine art and design student, I was introduced to the idea of bookmaking, but I wasn't quite interested in the process of submitting a book to a print production. I was actually interested in the process of mocking of the book. And then at the time, I was both working full-time and going to school full-time. So I was looking at ways of producing book at its most efficient, quick, easy way. And then I found out that zine became the most quick, efficient way of producing books, mass producing book. I moved forward to exploring ways of opening up a zine, right? Ways of thinking how one can open up a book with different different sides of it, and then the transparency and the visibilities of books, as well as the reflective nature of what a book can be. I don't think in the location we live in, Lowell, Massachusetts, I don't think we have a lot of location that publishes zine or take in zines. I think the only places are Lala Books, and there was another bookstore up at Mill 5. Otherwise, I think I haven't seen zine for a while. I think the main reason why is because there's not a lot of producers or makers, or an introduction on the production of zines. And I think it could be very beneficial to local artists to think about producing them and distributing them to local areas, locations such as coffee shop, which people go to often, right? Where people congregate is where zine should be located at the most discreet form, I think. But I haven't seen a lot scattered in Lowell. From my experience, the consumers of zines are both national and international. With the zine production I did for Collab, they have a lot of national and international audience that actually order the zine through websites and stuff. And these zines are meant to be passed down from one person to the next as a form of news or a form of spreading news, right? I mean, that's why zine were made. It's quick, efficient, and then it's small, and because it's for passing around. For these guys, when I produced the small zine, I began the production and also the distribution of it as a free form. So each person in these photos receive a copies of this book as a form of memory, right? Zines also contain memories. As you're passing it down to the next person and the person next to you, right? They contain photos, images, narrative, stories, right? These things are what make up the audience of zine, is the young people, the people who look at them, the spontaneous moment of a congregation that one person just passed it, or the person you're photographing or taking a picture of that you're trying to communicate a sense of sentimental objects to them. So I I think that zine is a national and international thing, and it's open for all audience, and it's spontaneous for both young and old people at probably age teens to the 30s, 40s. I do notice a lot of discrepancies, especially living in the city of Lowell. I don't think there's a lot of platform that help showcase these BIPOC artists at all. There's like one or two, and even these guys rely on the infrastructure of the institute. And often enough, institute don't bring out don't showcase the artists within Lowell, the young artists, I should say, quote unquote, young artists. I think nonprofit organizations such as Free Soil, Anchor Dance Troupe, and probably Refuge are a handful that I know allow youth voice to be upfront about these complex identity navigation, about their background, their stories, their narrative. And if we don't focus on them as a city, we should be asking why. If we claim to be an artistic city, a city that houses artists, a city that wants to welcome all artists, yet we don't listen to our younger people, and then why, right? I find that there isn't a lot of platform that allow these voices to be showcased. It is so essential for artists in Lowell to have access to a platform, access to exhibitions, galleries, and fundings to help support their work. And when we're talking about fundings, we're not talking about funding that are full of bureaucracy, fundings that are restricted to certain spendings, right? Because that's not equitable. The process of art making is the experience of making the art itself and not the funding. If you're focusing 50% of your time or 75% of your time trying to fulfill a grant's need because you can't spend money, is it equitable? No, it's not equitable. Then why even publish the grant to begin with if it's not equitable, right? Art is the experience, design is the experience. If you're not experiencing the process of making art and it's turning into a little bit of a workforce, of logistic workforce or organization, then you're not making art. And if Lowell is generating these grants that are equitable to communities that are being introduced to art, then do Lowell want to be an art city, right? These are the questions they need to ask themselves. And why are grants so difficult to get? Or has there been an infrastructure that are designed by BIPOC artists, designed by BIPOC people, to then share it with other BIPOC artists, right? It is not the infrastructure of an institute that can be implied to us. It is the infrastructure of who we are, the BIPOC artists, that is going to be more equitable and more just. You got to set up a system that allows these artists to be successful. If the system aren't already success, for example, institutes like local galleries, right? If they're not set up to help the BIPOC artists market themselves, then what's the point of BIPOC artists setting themselves up to market themselves, right? If they know they're gonna not be successful. They need the assistance of a diverse group of people. They need an assistant of local galleries supporting them to help them market themselves, right? Otherwise, they can't be well known. Otherwise, you're not sharing the creative development or creation or the imagination of your local people here in Lowell. And that's detrimental to the city. If the city is diverse, then the city needs to market its people. We need more BIPOC curators here. We need more curators that can set up infrastructures for artists, BIPOC artists, to be successful, right? We need infrastructures around exhibition space that is more equitable, more accessible, right? And more open with community dialogue. If we don't have that, then we can't allow our community to imagine forward, to imagine its future, but also to reflect on its past, right? BIPOC curators. Name at least one BIPOC curators or two BIPOC curators in the city of Lowell in the arts. Name at least 10 artists of BIPOC community in the city of Lowell, right? If you can put each finger down in your hands, then yeah, we're heading down that path. But if we can't, then let's start questioning that, and how do we get to the goals we want to be, right? Name at least 1 to 2 curators with Asian American, with Black, Latino, and also so on and so forth, right? In the city of Lowell. Do we have any? Do I know of any? I don't think so. I actually have a background in dance, and that dance is very informative because it's the first art I was introduced to. I think I was born into it. And tracking back history a little bit, Cambodia was under the colonization of the French colonial. So a lot of our thinking behind art are derived from a Eurocentric point of view of vernacular. And when that happened, we often forget about our personal handcraft memory, our memory of artistic production. Now, that doesn't mean we don't value the artistic production of other influencers into the country, such as French colonial, right? But it erases our personal memory of production, of craft production, of cultural production. And when you do that, the next generation it accumulate over generation up to the point where one generation will need to confront the idea of why are we doing this? Why are the things we do so relatively close to our counterpart, the Eurocentric view? And not just artistic production, cultural production, but social issues, political issues, anything, literature, right? They're all are cumulative of experience that are fully considered by the colonial time during the French occupation. And so when we're thinking of decolonizing, we're breaking it down, we're deconstructing it piece by piece by piece. And when we do that, we allow a form of understanding of who we are, our history, and the things we have forgotten to re-seek it out again, to seek it out, to have conversation between generation. When we do that, we're allowing for creative mindset to foster a sense of new aesthetic, new beautiful things that comes from it. And when you decolonize it, you're deconstructing the moments of it, not just both its social political contexts, but also the aesthetic form, the production form, and you question it. You bring it up to play, right? And then you begin asking yourself these questions. You're allowing yourself to make artwork, or myself to make artwork that are considered by my roots memory, my grandparents, what they remember, what they used to know, or the previous master I learned under what they used to know, and to why it changes under a certain time period of colonization. And it's important to do this. If we don't do it now, the next generation or the previous generation will need to confront it. And being with the dance troupe, we're slowly re-engaging with these conversations again. What is critical to preserve? What is not critical to preserve? And how do we preserve it so that it's most of its, so it's almost a replica, but also seeking a new form of innovation as well. And my relationship with the dance troupe has transformed into this larger conversation of how to move forward from that.